This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Demarest, CPA with Parmelis & Associates. I've been recapping a lot of end-of-year financials with my clients, and profit is probably always the number one topic. I want to talk about why it's good, why it's bad, but generally not inputs. And did you have to show up to the shop to make that $100,000 of profit is generally a much better question to ask than did you make a profit, yet it's seldom asked. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about this week. Before we get into that, I just want to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. Remember, if you want to hear your question answered on here, have a topic that you'd like to hear me talk about, or anything else in between, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors, NAPA and Promotive, for being such loyal supporters of the show. If you need a new shop management system, give Trax a call. If you need to get that next rock star on your team, give Promotive a call. Let's face it, your shop management system is the most critical tool in your shop. NAPA Trax will move your shop into the SMS fast lane with on-site training, 6 days a week support, and local representation. Visit them online at napatrax.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. Great news. You now have a hiring partner to help you with the heavy lifting of hiring your next superstar. Introducing Promotive, a full-service staffing solution for your auto repair shop. Visit them online at gopromotive.com. Before we get into what we're going to talk about this week are you an overpaid employee and what does that mean? I have a couple quick little updates that I want to give out. So I wanted to do an episode this week about some of the tax changes on the horizon. We don't have enough certainty on this stuff yet. I don't want to do another one of just speculation, but I'll give you guys the quick 30 seconds on where this stuff stands. The big push, and you've seen this stuff on the news, big or small, there's a lot of stuff that is set to expire. So stuff that you don't even know that is temporary in a tax law right now, there is already a bill in Congress to extend this. A lot of this dates back to 2018 when Trump was first in office and made these changes. So 50 to 60% of what they're trying to pass in legislation is just to keep what they have going on. Now, the stuff about not taxing overtime tips, all that is supposedly in there, and they're trying to get this passed, I think, sometime in March because they're going to have another kind of budget meeting in that time. So what does that mean? There's nothing on the horizon that I think is a certainty and is anything that's going to happen soon. Some of this stuff, like I just mentioned, if it does change, we are going to have an episode on it. I've talked about this time and time again. I can't see them making tips not taxable or overtime not taxable. As of right now, they're pushing for it. So if that does happen, we're going to have an episode on how do we change it so that you can pay your employees in a way that they don't get taxed. Until that point, it doesn't really make sense to talk about because, again, it's just speculation. If you want speculation, there's a ton of it out there, but no one knows as of right now. The next thing on it, I have to give a quick shout out to Parmelis. We were just actually named one of the top 100 accounting firms in the country by USA Today. So I need to give a quick shout out to my team. I don't always talk about my business a ton, but yeah, pretty cool to be named with some really, really big firms. Pricewaterhouse, there's a lot of really big firms. To have Parmelis in the same category means a lot. How do they vote for that stuff? It's actually the most recommended firm. So people like you, people that listen to this, our clients, recommended this to other people who need help with their taxes, with their accounting, and specifically for this industry. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to my team. And yeah, check it out. So pretty cool. Enough of the updates. Let's get what you came here to talk about. And it is the title of the episode, Are You an Overpaid Employee? Some cases on this, we're going to say underpaid employee. And the first thing we got to ask is, well, are you? What does that mean? Because if you go back, there's a lot of people that are going to answer that subjectively. Well, of course I'm an employee, right? I'm a slave to my business. And some people, this might not be an eye-opening conversation. This might be one of your big issues already, but maybe you look at it differently. Maybe you don't know how to fix it. When I look at a business, I see two different types of people. There's business owners and there's employees. Sometimes they can be disguised as both. When I'm looking at specifically on shops, the classic example is, well, how much money you make? Well, if you're owning a business, you're making more money. So then by default, you're not an employee. Well, you still could be. They both can make the same amount of money. You could be, like the title shows, a very overpaid employee. Well, hon, I make $200,000 a year. Well, if you're in a shop and you got 3 technicians and no other service advisor, you're not a business owner. You're a very, very well-paid service advisor. Kind of get the way this is going. Employees clock in every day. A business owner doesn't. Maybe it's not 9 to 5 on there, but it kind of goes into the next thing we're going to talk about. Businesses do not operate without their employees. If you don't have technicians, you don't have advisors, you don't have managers, you cannot run your business. A business owner should run without its owner. Again, it's generally not going to be as profitable as with the owner being there every single day. But if you can't show up and not have a 20, 30% drop off in your business, I got bad news for you. You are not a business owner, you're an employee. This is something that you guys need to be very mindful of. And the overall idea of this comes from our benchmark report. And we're going to be doing that again this year, but essentially it compares all of our shops, the top, the not, South, European, diesel, and really segments this stuff up. But the big question, again, that everyone wants to know is, well, what are the top shops doing? And so the idea of this episode came in because everyone wants, or they think that they want to be my top shop. And my top shop, or not my top shop, but one of them up there, they make around 35% net income. They do very well. They make a lot of money. And no, it's not something where they're only doing $100,000 of sales a year. Or they're doing almost $2 million, and 35% of those sales are ending up in my client's pocket. I have another shop that he makes around similar sales, but only 15% of his net income goes into his pocket. So if I sit back here and I talk to you guys and you think about this and I say, I have 2 businesses, which one would you rather take? Which one are you picking? Like most people, you don't have enough information to make this pick, but you're probably going to pick the 35% net income. I'll take the one with the most profit. I'll figure out the rest later. People always ask me about this, right? Well, Hunt, what would you, if you could take a pick of all of your clients' shop, which one would you take? And again, it's not the one with the high profit margin. My other shop that makes 15% net income, that guy hasn't been in that shop for almost a year. I'm not even sure if he's called in to check on that shop. It is 100% autopilot. My client that makes a 35% net income probably works around 2,500 hours a year. Don't know how much that is. Average person that works full-time is working 2,000 hours. So he's averaging 10, 15 hours of overtime every single week. You still want that 35% business? Perfect, right? That might be your objective. That might be your stage in life. Before we get into how to calculate this stuff, I want to kind of set the stage on where this stands. When you first get into business, when you first start your shop, you should have one objective and one objective alone. You need to make money. When I see shops, what I see is a bell curve on profit. When you first start your shop, you're probably losing money because you don't have enough sales coming through, right? Or you're reinvesting those back into the company to grow it. As you kind of grow your business, you're going to get to a point where you're making the most amount of money that you've ever made. Let's say that's 20%, let's say that's 25%, 30%, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. Most people end up having a drop-off. Most people, you start your business, you don't make much money, you make a ton of it, and then you kind of pull back a little bit. And why is that? So what we generally see people is they're trading profit for time. Your business might operate at a 30% profit margin, but you're probably going to have to do a good bit to get it there. What if you were to hire a manager? What if you were to hire some redundancy into the business? We see that a lot, and you have businesses where the sales are steady at $2 million, $1 million, whatever it is, and you kind of see some of this profit being eroded. But what these people are doing is they're working themselves out of a business. They're working themselves out of a job. A lot of times when you make that transfer from employee to ownership, that is actually a pay decrease. If you're just looking at strictly profit, strictly cash, that's a negative thing. But what you're actually doing is buying back your time. And depending on what rate you're doing this at, it could be a smart move and maybe not. Now, what does that mean? If you're not making any money, then you don't need to value your time, right? If you're starting out very early, you just need to worry about making more money. Now, again, once you get older, you have other people making money, you're leveraged, you need to worry about pulling back a little bit and not probably trying to squeak out every last cent. Hopefully you're following along. Hopefully you're kind of getting this idea of all of our employees to a certain extent. We know what their hourly rate is, yet most people listening to this probably could even guess what theirs is. So you cannot improve something that you don't understand or measure. So if we want to improve it, we need to see where we stand first. The general idea in this is very, very simple. we're going to take the total amount of money that you made in the business and divide it by the amount of hours it took to achieve this. How much hours did I input and how much money did it output? Fairly simple, looking for a ratio, looking for, the analysis on there. The first part is easy. How much salary do you make? If your spouse works in the business, we're going to include theirs as well. And this is going to be looked at a combined hourly rate. If you guys both actively work in the business, I would argue that you do this separately because you have two different numbers. Now we have your annual salary. We need to add on things like benefits, health insurance out of the company, personal benefits, gas, food, travel, and stuff like that. I'm going to stop on this section a little bit because this is the part that kind of gets people the most confused. First, when you add in your salary, the next one we're going to talk about is you're adding in your profit. Very straightforward. If you have a race car and you run all of your race car parts through your business, if you run all of your personal travel through your business, if you run all of your whatever through your business, factor that in there. Because sometimes what I see is you guys putting too much personal expense on the business, and it looks like the business not generating enough profit, but it really is. It just has a lot of your personal life baked in already. Any sort of expenses, benefits, and personal perks that's running through the business, add that up. Like I said, so we got our salary, we got our perks, benefits, all that stuff, and then your net income. Net income could get tricky. You should really be adding back some other things. For right now, just make sure that it doesn't include depreciation. So if you're taking your net income and you see depreciation expense on that, add that back in there because it's not a real cash expense. NAPA Tracks was built from the ground up to make your business more profitable and efficient. They provide an extensive set of tools to increase and track profitability in real time. NAPA Tracks offers the industry's best wholesale support hands down. They train your people on site. Yes, on site. They also offer remote refresher training 10 times a week and customer support is open 6 days a week. Give them a call, visit them, or join our Facebook community today to learn more. They'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. NAPA Trax is always customized and tailored for your business, whether you're a one-man shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Visit us on the web at napatrax.com. That's NAPATRACS.com. Is your recruitment process draining your valuable time and resources? What if there was a partner who could take your recruitment efforts off your plate? Look no further. Promotive is your ultimate solution for hassle-free staffing focused solely on the automotive industry. On the web at gopromotive.com. Promotive understands the challenges you face when searching for the perfect technician or service advisor for your shop. That's why we've developed a platform that takes the hassle out of recruiting. Michelle Tanzi from Euroclinic said, "I am a shop owner and recruiting new talent is so time-consuming. Promotive does the majority of the seeking and recruiting. They reach out to the candidates for you, and when they feel they are a good match for you and culture, they make the connection. They follow up throughout the interview process, and we make sure that the candidates are a good fit and the shop is a good fit for the candidates. I admire that they genuinely want both parties to win. They recruited and paired us with a solid B-Tech and Master Tech. Both left a dealership position and are still part of our team. We are very happy with the character and culture match, and both technicians have become valuable team members. Visit our website at gopromotive.com today and join the growing community of shop owners who have found their ideal team members with Promotive." Now that we have how much money you made from the business, you took out $50,000 on payroll, you got $50,000 in benefits, other personal stuff, and we got $100,000 in profit. So altogether, you're taking out $200,000 a year out of the business. How much money you made is easy. Let's see how much time it took you to earn this. It's pretty simple. All you need to do is, figure out how much you work. If you keep a time clock on this, then perfect. You already have your hours. If you don't know where to start and you work full time on this, start with 2,000 hours. But if you're really going to start analyzing this number, if you're really going to start trying to improve it, you got to start tracking how much time you're in there. Not that you're going to get paid on it, but again, you can't improve what you don't measure. Like I said before, if your spouse works in the business, then you need to add in their time as well. Like I said, you can do this stuff separately. It kind of gets weird if you're doing this separately. But again, if you're both actively working in the business, I would do two different numbers. Don't know where you stand. If you're working so much and you're like, I'm working 60 hours a week, do 2,500 hours. If you're like, I don't work more than 30 hours a week, do 1,500. Everyone else that you don't know, do 2,000 for right now and see what the number comes out with. Before I let you guys go and see how good or bad your hourly rate is, let's go down through an example to really kind of beat a dead horse and get this hammered home. Not only show you guys how to calculate this, but kind of how you analyze this as well. Like I said, we have $50,000 on payroll, $50,000 on benefits, $100,000 in profit, and this is just me. I'm just doing myself. I'm going to presume I am not married, but this is just if it was just me alone. All in all, I made $200,000 come out of the business. Is that good? Is it not good? It's not enough to tell, honestly. Just like I asked before, which business that you want? Hey, that made $200,000 a year. You want that one? Is that good? Well, if you're doing $20 million in sales, that's probably not good. If you're doing $400,000 in sales, it probably is. And the same flip side on this. Is $200,000 a year good? Well, if I'm working 2,000 hours, yeah, I'm making $100 an hour. That's not too bad. Now, if it's me and my spouse working in the business and we're combining those hours, each of us is only making $50 an hour. This went from, hey, that looks pretty good to, hey, that's a pretty good job. Now, if me and my spouse are both working in there, we're really only making $50 an hour. Are we even the highest paid employee? We might go from being an overpaid employee and realize that, hey, we're still an employee, but we're not even overpaid. We're just an employee. And obviously, the worst case scenario is if you realize all of this and you are the lowest paid employee, which is unfortunately sometimes what people find out. Now, the same flip side, if we're looking at this and saying, well, what is the profit in relative sense of sales? Well, profit relative sense of hours. Like we showed, if I'm working there full time, I'm making like $100 an hour. If me and my wife are working there full time, we're making like $50 an hour. Not that good. Now, what if I was to look at this and say, hey, that same business that generates me $200,000 a year, I only had to work in there around 500 hours to get this. Now my hourly rate goes from $100 an hour or $50 when it's me and my wife. Now I'm making $400 an hour. Now I am not an overpaid employee because I no longer work 5 days a week, right? I only work probably a quarter of the week. And not only am I overpaid, I'm truly a business owner. I've turned this into not a passive income source, but it is not something that needs you there every single day. And it is also still giving you a high enough hourly rate that I think that $400 an hour is worth your time. Depending on what stage you are in your life and how much you like your job on this, I'm going to argue for a lot of you guys, finding out that you're making $40 an hour is probably not enough to put up with some of the frustration, stress, and headache that goes along with it. Whether or not you like it, you're going to find out pretty quickly if you're an employee or an owner. And no matter which category you're in, there's always time to change that. But either way, you still want to be overpaid. Okay? So remember, overpaid has to do with how much you're making. Owner and employee has to do with how much you're working. So two different things. How much you're making is an output. How much you're working is an input. This number might be shocking to you, right? And maybe you pause this and go calculate this, but some of you guys can probably do the numbers in your head and you kind of know where you stand. I'm sure whether it's good, whether it's bad, you probably want to improve this, or some of you guys might actually want to make it worse by getting some more people in there. But if you think about it that way, right? If you actually want to lower your profit by getting people in there, you're now going to be measuring a different number. Because if you go from $200,000 a year that you're working 2,000 hours down to $100,000 a year, but you're only working 500, yeah, your profit went down, but your hourly rate doubled. So think about that. So how do we improve this? It's pretty simple. You make more money and you spend less time in the business. But realistically, it's a little bit more involved than that. Focus on the things that are most profitable uses of your time. So not only focusing on working less in the business, but doing stuff that only you can do and it's going to drive the most amount of profit to your business. Give you a great example. Let's say you're the shuttle driver. Is the better use of your time hiring a shuttle driver or using that time to work on your business? If you're checking out customers, do you think it's a better idea of you visiting local business to see if you can pick up fleet accounts or on the counter checking out a customer that's already, completed the sale? This is such an important concept in life that people generally figure out a lot later in life. I feel like that when we're young, you generally value money more than time. And then later in life, we value time more than money. Where you stand, where you fall is all up to you to make the decision. I just hope that this kind of gives you a little bit more tools to look at maybe a same problem or maybe give you a couple of different solutions to fix something that you've been working on. Either way, please share with friends. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Just want to say thanks again for listening to the Aftermarket Radio Network. You can find all shows on the aftermarketradionetwork.com. Don't forget to listen to the rest of the shows. Craig and Speak Up, Matt diagnosing the aftermarket and everything else in between, Chris Cotton and his weekly Blitz, and Kim and Brian Walker with everything marketing for shop owners. So just want to say thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.